EMD's E-units have long been a favorite of rail fans. With a sleek, elegant design, these locomotives harken back to the golden days of railroading in America. In the Chicagoland region, however, E9s could easily be found up to the early 1990s on Burlington Northern's triple-track main line, known as the racetrack. Shuttling commuters to and from downtown Chicago, Burlington Northern utilized their E-units far longer than any other railroad did. Given their significance, what was the history of Burlington Northern's E-units? In the late 1960s, the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad faced a dilemma. Their Chicagoland commuter operation was out of date and needed massive capital improvements estimated to cost $25 million, yet the service cost the railroad $2 million a year. The railroad's fleet of E8s and E9s were a part of this cost. Having racked up nearly 2 million miles and requiring a diesel generator car to power trains over 2 cars long, the units needed an overhaul. Looking to fund the improvements needed, Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy executives took note of a similar issue facing the Illinois Central. Losing money on its commuter service and in desperate need of new equipment, the Illinois Central helped form the South Suburban Mass Transit District. This newly formed district collected property taxes in the communities it served and used the funds to purchase new Highliner train sets and improve commuter service. As the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy became a part of the Burlington Northern Railroad in 1970, executives worked to form a transit district of their own. Formed in 1970, the West Suburban Mass Transit District comprised of 10 towns the Burlington Northern served. As part of the agreement between the West Suburban Mass Transit District and the Burlington Northern, 21 E8 and E9 locomotives would be sold to the transit district. These locomotives would be rebuilt to modern specifications and be operated and maintained by Burlington Northern. In 1973, the first batch of former Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy E-units was sent to Morrison Knudsen in Boise, Idaho to be rebuilt. The improvements Morrison Knudsen made to Burlington Northern's Suburban E-units were extensive. All units were rebuilt to E9 specifications and officially renamed E9AMs. The original pairs of 567 prime movers were replaced with newer pairs of 645 prime movers, producing a combined 2,400 horsepower. A 500 kilowatt AC generator replaced the original steam generator and now provided head-end power to the passenger cars. The E-units were massive machines, measuring 70 feet 3 inches long, 10 feet 7.5 inches wide, and weighing 330,500 pounds. Additionally, the locomotives featured a Leslie RS2M horn. Here's an example. As Burlington Northern began receiving the rebuilt E-units, West Suburban Mass Transit District officials wanted to show their appreciation to loyal commuters. To do so, a drawing was formed, in which 10 winners would have a locomotive named after them. After collecting names from Burlington Northern commuters at Chicago Union Station, the results were given to Illinois Governor Dan Walker to draw from. The first winner? Edwin S. Putz. The officials could hardly believe someone had the last name Putz, but they called the number listed, and sure enough, Mr. Putz was real. E9 9910 received the honor of bearing Mr. Putz's name, located just below the cab. Even Morrison Knudsen jumped in on the fun and ran an ad proudly proclaiming, "Edwin S. Putz, your locomotive is ready." The improvements made on the E-units were a success. With availability rates over 95%, the E-units provided reliable service to and from Chicago. Demand for Burlington Northern's commuter service rose so high that the railroad sent 4 more E-units to Morrison Knudsen to be rebuilt in 1978. Numbered 9900 through 9908 and 9910 through 9925, Burlington Northern's fleet of E9s was complete. As time went on, Burlington Northern's E-units gained a serious following from rail fans. From the late 1970s onward, E-units nationwide were being retired and scrapped, and the sight of the classic Streamliner was becoming rare. But on Burlington Northern's racetrack, E-units flew commuters to and from Chicago at high speed. Retaining the nickname Dinkies from the days of the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, Burlington Northern's commuter trains were a sight to behold. Even as Metra began taking over Chicagoland's commuter operations in the mid-1980s, the E-units retained their green and white paint. It was as if time had preserved some of America's most beloved locomotives in everyday service. The good times, however, could not last. By the early 1990s, the limitations of the E-units were becoming obvious. Some locomotives were over 40 years old, and replacement parts were becoming increasingly scarce and expensive. Additionally, the E-units were unable to compete with modern alternatives. EMD's F40PH provided more power and greater fuel efficiency than the E-units at a more economical cost. The writing was on the wall for the E-units. As word got out that the E-units' days were numbered, rail fans flocked to the racetrack to catch a glimpse of the locomotive's last days. It was during this time that the most infamous video of the E-units was recorded. On August 26, 1991, a rail fan was filming the E-units at the Fairview Avenue station in Downers Grove when Mary Vojtiwa, a 41-year-old woman from Chicago, crossed the tracks with her attorney. Despite the lowered crossing gates and blaring horn from E9 9912, the two continued across. While her attorney narrowly escaped death, Miss Vojtiwa was hit and instantly killed. The video has been used by Operation Lifesaver as a reminder to look, listen, and live when crossing railroad tracks. In 1992, Metro received an order of 30 F40PH M-2s. With 18 units set to be used on the racetrack, the new F40PHs marked the end of the line for the E-units. Retired on August 30th, 1992, the West Suburban Mass Transit District sold the E-units off to the highest bidder, starting at $100,000. Several units found new homes on other railroads, including MARC, Illinois Central, and Canadian National. Other units ended up in museums. Some notable examples include 9908, which is currently being restored to its original Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy paint at the Illinois Railway Museum, and 9912, which resides at the Tennessee Central Railway Museum. Burlington Northern retained 9919 and restored it as part of its executive fleet before donating the locomotive to the Illinois Railway Museum. Sadly, many of Burlington Northern's E-units were sold for scrap, never to see service again. Today, the Dinky Parade marches on without the E-units. The speed and frequency that Metro trains run on the racetrack is relentless and is a must-see sight for any rail fan. But it isn't the same as it was with the E-units. The fact that Burlington Northern was able to run these first-generation diesels for over 40 years is an incredible testament to the reliability and longevity of the E-units. They are some of the most beloved locomotives to grace the racetrack and are a unique part of Chicago's railroad history.